The Orville, Season 2, Episode 7, Deflectors. Which the story is only about deflectors in the sense that you have an upgrade to the deflecting shield.
And hello? Am I still?
Yeah, you're...
Okay. Because, no, it accidentally closed on me.
But... yeah, with the Mocklins, it seems like a lot of times, like...
They're
there's
just
the old...
dicks.
Well, they all have them, at least.
Well, 99.7% of them do.
Well, once they've been brought into, made quote unquote normal, then yes, all of them, after a certain age, basically 100%, outside of someone's living up in caves.
Although that does make me wonder, hypothetically speaking, if one were to fall for one of those Mocklin females, would it still be as illegal as falling for an alien female, or more so because
you knew about this
added
abomination, and you not only did you cover for them, you encouraged it. So I mean, I think it would be double bad. It's like,
yeah,
the Mocklin stories seem to have a habit of sometimes the old phrase, sometimes the dragon wins. Yeah. Mocklins, that tends to work a lot. Work out a lot because, dang.
Yeah. Their world, their society kind of really sucks.
it does.
But yeah, I mean, transitioning children, and if you have a different interest in mating pair, then you're just wrong. Well, and the suicide thing is an interesting thing.
I mean, that's a little more understandable, though.
Well, I mean, I understand suicide being frowned upon. I understand that. That's fine. As a society, yeah, and if it got intense, it's at least understandable. But like throwing all of their family off world, that's a little extreme. I suppose that does force the family to worry about what's going on with any of their kin to an extreme degree because they don't want to get kicked off the planet. So they've got to be really super interested if anybody is showing any signs at all of depression or suicidal tendencies. They've got to be on top of that because they don't want to be kicked off the planet. They could, there's no just ignoring it. So I guess it does have that aspect of it is a thing. And they're likely to report people with suicidal tendencies to, mental health people more quickly. Which also I imagine also keeps the it does stop people from saying anything about it as well, in that they know that if they're immediately going to be sent somewhere if they even slightly suspect that they've got any sort of tendencies that way anyway. So they might keep things more to themselves.
Yeah.
Which so it has its upsides and downsides. less self-reporting, but more familial reporting. So, so you know, take it with both ways. I can understand why that went in. Now that I think about it, I can see why that went into place. But it's a bit of an extreme solution to it, and it does have its problems. But what was I say? Yeah. It was an interesting game of hide and seek.
Yeah, that I was thinking the same thing. It
This is
sounds like
the world's most extreme version of hide and seek. Like I said, it's any manhunt is, an extreme hide and
they
seek.
actually had a game show about that once. I don't know if it's still going. I think it was called Hide or something, where they basically were. Oh no, I think it was called Manhunt. But yes, it was a very interesting game, and the very first line the very first scene kind of gave you a potential lead in for the next episode's set, because we're about to enter an unexplored region of space, which would explain why it would be a two-parter. I mean, that would give you a good tie into that.
Yeah, if that's what it's about. Yeah, and it's also entering the leaving
Into a potential story arc thing going on there.
Yeah. We also found out that Cassius is going away, or at least that's what it seems like for now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I can't really blame him for that. It's like he can see that there's something going on still with them, and it would hurt him too much, so he's bowing out.
Yeah.
Which is a very responsible thing to do. But then again, he's very much a very responsible person.
Well, and the interesting thing is also,
well, for the most part, that's the being clean.
Well, and the interesting thing is, because she does berate him for stop being so civilized, or so, I forget what the exact term was, but so understanding or something. It's like, you're too good. And it also find it interesting the whole work-life balance issue is coming back to
full circle with her.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Although I do understand, I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to ever get married, but she's been there and she's not in that place in her life, and he is, so she was being responsible by dumping him. Because
at least, it's better to be honest with somebody and not lead them on, because that was one of her big things. I'm not gonna lead you on here. It's just,
I don't want this, you do, and it wouldn't be fair to you to just keep going with what we're doing when this is all I want. You want something more, you deserve to find that with somebody who wants what you want.
Yeah.
And he just wanted that with her. So we do get to see that even the most dependable and most what's the word? civil people can get a little unbalanced when facing rejection like that.
Yeah.
I mean, those cookies, which I guess Mercer would be Mercer's happy about it because he got some free cookies.
Yeah.
Although everything's free technically, but you know what I mean.
Oh,
He got
cookies he didn't have
cookies.
to cookies he didn't have to replicate himself.
Yeah,
Hey.
he got some. He's like, these are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Take them. I love the expression he had when he went to grab them. The way he just picked them up, almost like he was stealing them.
Well, it's
He's
kind of
like,
an awkward thing if you're thinking about
Yeah.
it from his perspective. It's like, okay, these were given by my ex's ex-boyfriend to her to try and get back together with her, and I'm just going to take these cookies.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's a little awkward.
Is if
Not
when
as
he's
awkward as the plant man, but
Yeah, that one was, again, a bit clingy and very clingy.
what
Come on,
about
man,
her?
take him back. You know, he totally loves you, man. It's like, dude, you're a giant talking plant in my court. Get out. What is it with aliens and entering quarters without permission?
yeah, they don't seem to have a good sense of privacy on this ship.
Yeah,
What's hilarious is if he was walking down the hallway with the cookies and he ran into him. It's like, oh,
that would be hilarious. I would love that as a cutscene if they have.
I'm sure that's another one of those, awkward cutscenes, but they were like, it doesn't really need it. It's funny, but it doesn't really.
Yeah.
We need this time to cover something else, so we'll just do that. It's like my thought on him, shaving and seeing Bortus shaving. That would be a funny deleted scene. It's not necessary. We don't need to see that he shaved his mustache. See him shaving his mustache, but it's it would be a funny thing to see.
I don't blame Bortus for dumping Lokar though, because cheating is still cheating, and he cheated on him with a woman, but that's still cheating, and that's a double betrayal technically, because it's like, I'm not good enough for you. You gotta.
Well, and the double betrayal. Well, see, the thing is, it's interesting. That Bortus is a lot more open-minded. Like, Clyden is basically a repository of what Mocklins generally believe and they generally do. And Bortus is sort of the, I've been with humans and other Union species, and some of our stuff's a little messed up, and so I don't see,
But this is kind of funny, though, because if you look at their personality characteristics from a human standpoint, Clyden is totally the wife of that relationship.
Oh, yes.
And yet, usually when you think about, like, human couples like that, the wife is a little more empathetic and a little more open to new ideas as far as stereotypically speaking, at least in Western culture. And it's the man that is stereotypically and traditionally the more stoic, no, this is how it is. This is how it's always been, probably because of the whole male indoctrination and male supremacy aspect of those stereotypes. But you would think that Clyden would be the more open-minded and understanding one. But when it comes to their traditions, Clyden is very much, this is how it is, so this is how we should be.
Well, I think Clyden, he doesn't have to interact as intensely with things as Bortus does. Bortus is around other species all day. Clyden, if he doesn't have a function, from what we can tell, an official job on the Orville.
That does make a question, though. What are the emblems on their street clothes? I mean, not literally street clothes, but their Mocklin.
Their native garb.
Yeah, they're Mocklin off-duty clothes.
Mm.
Because if you notice, all of them have little emblems or little symbols. Is that like a family crest, like Superman wears,
Or like Klingons.
yeah, or guns wear? Because each one is different, and it looked like Clyden's and Bortus both had the same one, but Clyden had an extra one, so maybe it is a familial crest. It would be interesting to see more information on that in future points.
Yes. And yeah. Let's see.
Talking the birds and the bees with Topa.
It is what comes before the egg.
What is a relationship? It's what comes before an egg. Did you have an egg with? It's like, oh my god.
No.
Oh,
but I like that. It's a funny thing about Bortus, and Clyden shows us it's the sort of stoicism that Bortus shows is not. It's not a universal trait of his species. It's just sort of his trait.
Yeah.
And so I love the way he addresses things like, no.
Yeah, he is very, very stoic and cool.
He's matter of fact.
Clyden is more closed-minded when it comes to tradition, but Bortus is more closed-minded when it comes to emotion. When it comes to personal information, that is personal. That is very much separated from the professional. And he very much compartmentalizes everything. Whereas Clyden is just very open and very, which is another traditionally wifey thing of, oh dear, don't be so like, don't be such a hard ass, you know, you're really a big softie.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, if you think about it, in this case, that's kind of the case. He's got a really hard shell, but he's really willing. Like, he didn't like. By all accounts, if he had been doing what a Mocklin is supposed to do, he would have reported Lokar when he caught him cheating.
He really is a big softie.
Yeah, he's very much hard on the outside, soft on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like, you know.
Whereas Clyden is very much the opposite. He very much tries to show this nice, friendly exterior and be very cordial with everybody, and this sweet, innocent, Fluttershy type personality he tries to show, and then he's really kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And he ate a tooth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure Bortus has eaten tooth before. That's another thing. Guess the Mocklin tradition should be a new drinking game on the ship. It would have to be started by Malloy.
Yeah, and Lamar sort of hesitatingly participating.
Yeah.
But
Gordon is totally Tom Paris, but even cockier and sassier.
Yeah, he's definitely
It's like,
up there.
It's like, all right, defensive maneuvers. I said defensive. Don't be cocky. They gotta hit us.
Yeah, which I don't really understand them moving the ship at all. Why are you moving the ship at all? If
possibly because they want to see how the systems will function in accordance with one another. Like,
maybe it's an engine thing, like everything's.
Using the engines and the deflectors both take energy, and they want to see how that will harmonize with the new deflectors.
Yeah.
So they want it to be as close.
Just...
They want it to be as close to real as possible. Whereas if they were just standing still, okay, yeah, the deflectors work, but they fuck up this steering and you're going to crash into the next planet you see.
I don't
Which
know.
might have actually happened during a prior deflector upgrade somewhere, and that's why they have that.
Or the writers just put in, it would look cool.
And just to have Gordon show off again.
Yeah, he has a habit of doing that.
Now,
Also wanted to see Creepy Dan again.
now, speaking of love in this episode, Isaac is not allowed to talk about his love life.
No. Yes.
Which is
I was going to get to that. I was reading in order. He was going around the ship asking everybody what sexual positions are most pleasurable for biological life forms. I was merely attempting to provide Dr. Finn with the most dutifully calibrated coital experience. Yeah, no, that's what women want. Dutiful coitus. Hey, I'm trying to eat here.
Well, I mean,
He still calls her Dr. Finn, which amuses me.
and it's very much it's him to a T.
It
It's
is.
like he honestly wants to do good things for Doc Finn.
Yeah.
And you can see that he wants
To make her happy.
He wants to make her happy. He just has none of the social graces to go about finding things out without being awkward.
It would kind of be like Sherlock in a relationship, because that's exactly the kind of thing that Sherlock would do.
Oh yeah,
Go
he
around
would
because he lacks that social that tact. He lacks tact. And so
Yeah.
does Isaac, because Isaac doesn't understand the concept of tact.
Sherlock doesn't care.
Yeah, Sherlock just lacks the care of having tact.
Yeah. Well, and unless it suits his purpose. It would be also things he wouldn't know anyway, because he doesn't
He
keep
deletes
any
them from his mind palette.
He doesn't keep things that don't mean anything to him. Like,
Yeah.
this Earth goes around the sun. What does that have to do with anything? It's not
Yeah.
a very important thing. It's good that people know it, but I don't need to, because it doesn't affect my daily life. It doesn't affect my work. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I know where the sun rises, where the sun sets, and that's about as much as I need to know.
He could probably tell the time based on that. Like, oh, it's afternoon, or it's noon, or it's 1, 2 o'clock, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
he would have known, and he probably has, instead of having, the Earth goes around the sun, he probably has, a lunar calendar would probably be useful, because on a full moon, you can see different things than on a new moon. A new moon would be really easy
Exactly.
to get away with crime, and that would be a time to, if you're going to be out, outside the city or in a not really well lit part of the city, you'd want to, if you're going to do crime, you're going to do it around the new moon, because it's dark and you get the cover of night. And a full moon,
which is
less
kind
so.
of funny, because statistically speaking, more crimes are reported during a full moon.
That's because you can see them.
Yes, but I'm just saying, also, as somebody who deals with the public, people are definitely crazier around the full moon. That is not just a stereotype. It is a fact. You get crazier people around the full moon. Even people who are completely normal the rest of the time act a lot more insane around the full moon.
Anyway, back to the Orville.
No torpedoes. We said no torpedoes. You heard us say no torpedoes. He sounds like a kid playing a game at the park with his buddies. And it's like, hey, we said no torpedoes, dude. You're not playing fair. I'm telling Bobby.
Yeah, he's definitely he's the Tom Paris of this show. He's Tom Paris.
No, that wasn't Tom. That was Mercer.
Oh, I thought. Well,
that was Gordon.
Didn't Malloy say something like that?
That was a torpedo.
Okay,
And
I seem
Ed's
to. I
like,
thought,
no,
yeah.
no, no.
I usually just associate him with anything, though Mercer
Yeah.
does get a little bit that way sometimes.
Yeah, he does.
Yes. Yeah, and you can find a lot of characters. It's like this is sort of this archetype, and this is this sort of archetype.
Yeah.
Bortus has kind of got a Tuvok slash Worf thing going on.
Yeah, he does.
Um, you know,
Clyden definitely has a kind of Neelix feel to him.
but less annoying.
Yeah, less annoying, more of a dick.
Yeah, he's a lot more of a dick than Neelix was. Neelix
Yeah.
was he was
He is-
always trying. He was usually trying to do good, just going about it in a bit of an irritating way.
Yeah.
he always
This-
meant well.
Clyden is just
Almost always.
dick.
Yeah. Neelix almost always was meant well, but ended up being annoying for one
He's-
reason or another.
Neelix was more innocent
Yeah.
than Clyden.
When they met him, he tried to pull something. I seem to remember because it's been a long time since I've seen Voyager, but he tried to
Yeah,
pull
but
something.
he tried.
but
No, he
but-
tried to pull something. If I remember correctly, he was trying to pull something to protect Cass.
yeah, it's coming back to me a little bit. That
I think he was trying to protect Cass, and that's why he tried to do shit.
yeah,
but
that was
again,
why he was.
innocent.
Yeah.
That was his innocent reaction.
Yeah, he was trying to do good in one way. He was just
Yeah.
but yeah, he was usually trying to do things for the right reason, but he would do things that would annoy people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then let's see. Well, you got Isaac, obviously, Data with a little more interest in romance. And then Lamar,
Geordi.
a bit of Geordi, but he's also got a little bit of
Harry Kim.
yeah, because he kind of gets pushed around. He kind of gets pushed
He's
into
got
things
that
by
sidekick to Gordon.
Yeah. yeah. Malloy is Paris, just like amped up to
To a
11,
T.
and Lamar is sort of a Harry Kim slash LaForge sort of mashup.
Yeah.
And so, and then, I'm not sure what to say of the first officer. What she is. She's not really.
I would say, in a way, she's kind of a mashup of Janeway and Chakotay.
Okay.
Because, I mean, she's that calm presence beside Mercer,
Mhm.
who just, that Chakotay was to Janeway, that stands on the side and guides when needs to. Because Janeway was kind of a hothead at times, especially when she didn't have her daily coffee.
Yeah. She
And-
literally said there's coffee in that nebula.
Yeah. And so Chakotay was the one who just stood at the sides like, okay, chill. And
Yeah.
that's what Kelly does for for Ed, but in a more mature way. Instead of just telling him to chill, she's got to be the mature one of it, which is why the Janeway part, because Janeway was kind of the mommy of the crew, as Q put it.
Yeah. Well, that's what a first officer should do. Is like when the captain's getting too big for their britches, you just kind of reel them in a
Exactly.
little bit. Though I don't know what Mercer.
Mercer is kind of a Kirk, but less of a dumbass.
And less punchy.
Yeah.
Um,
He's kind of like what you would get if you mixed Kirk and Picard, but the good parts of them.
yeah, but not but losing some of each of their
Maturity. well,
you
losing Picard's maturity in place of Kirk's
yeah.
recklessness.
He's not quite as good at diplomacy as like a Picard, but he's good. He's
better than Kirk, not quite Picard level.
in terms of
But I mean,
diplomacy,
really
but he's also got that wild hair still in him. So it would be interesting to see like what Mercer would be like at Picard's age.
Yeah, that is a thing. I mean, he could be the Picard that we saw in Tapestry and what was that other episode? A young Picard.
Yeah, he could be a young Picard who's, if he, we don't know exactly where he's going to go with this, but he's generally pretty good, and he comes up with creative solutions to problems. He still
Not
does
quite
stupid
as
things from time to
creative.
time, but you're going to work that. That's something experience is going to do, and considering this is basically his first year on the job as a captain, it's that's he's going to grow into the role, and
Yeah, exactly.
assuming he survives with how much stuff the Orville runs into.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing his future
And
role.
I'm just thinking about it now, like, okay, say he's moving up to one of the bigger ships in the fleet, one of the more prestigious captain positions in the fleet, and it's because the captain of that ship has been promoted, but the first officer isn't. It's a Riker situation where he's not quite experienced enough to be captaining that particular vessel. He could captain other vessels, but not particularly that one, besides as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets named to the captain's chair of that one. And I'm just imagining the scene of this first officer. And he's like, I wonder, okay, I've heard some things about this Mercer guy. What's he like? And so he goes into the files, like whatever's public knowledge within the, whatever his public file is, and you see first contact with this one, you just read off what went on the ships, and if however much is public about what went on
Kind of
the
like
Orville.
that conversation in the episode. I mean, this has to be the most insane thing that's ever happened on the ship. Well, the one time I almost died because I owned the statue. Isaac cut my leg off. Captain and Commander, they got put into a zoo. And Borders almost crashed the ship because of porn. I see.
Yeah, I mean, you put it in perspective, and it's just like, okay,
exactly.
This is a new level.
And I think the acting in this episode was really well done, especially by Lockhart, because all those subtle, like, physical cues and all that subtle nonverbal communication he does throughout the entire thing, especially towards the beginning, is just brilliantly done.
Well, it was enough that you could pick up on, is he got a thing for
perfectly subtle.
Yeah.
Because if it were any more overt, like leering at Yala, then that would be like, what? But the way he snapped at that other science officer because he didn't want to show attraction to a female, and then the way he warmed up to Kiala because she was being friendly, but you can see kind of a connection forming there, that subtle attraction between both of them, actually. But she's just like putting it off because he's from an all-male species. That's not gonna happen. And so he goes and confesses to her, and she's just like dumbfounded for a moment.
Yeah.
What?
And she's like, wait, aren't you all dudes? Well, some of us are attracted to females. And it kind of makes me think of a reverse Brokeback Mountain almost. Like, you know, not specifically Brokeback Mountain, but I mean that timeline of how...
It won't surprise you that I've never seen Brokeback Mountain.
Same
I
here.
saw it once with a gay friend of mine because he really wanted to see it. But
Was he disappointed?
the basic, you understand the basic concept of it, right?
I think everybody
Gay
does.
cowboys is all I know
Okay,
about it.
well, it's not just gay cowboys. It's
Well, that's
these-
all I know about it. Is
Okay.
that those things are
Well,
in there.
the movie revolves around these two ranch hands, who it takes place over a long span of time, and every season they go up to this mountain to help with the cattle, ranging the cattle or whatever. I don't really know that much about it, about the logistics of that, but they're out in the wilderness alone together, and they develop an attraction for each other, which this takes place way back in the time where gays were beaten to death just for being homosexual. And that was not really frowned upon. That was common activity. And so these two, they had wives, and they had wives they went back to, and children. And then over the years, their relationship kind of, they wanted to be together, but they couldn't because of society. And so one of them ended up actually being beaten to death for being gay because he started a gay relationship with somebody else, and it was found out. And so and the other one, I don't remember what happened to him, but I think he died of AIDS or something. But it's still that sense of you are going against society just because society frowns upon how you feel. And it's kind of a reversal of that. The whole Moclan race of, you like women? Ew. You need to die. Or at least get locked up where you can't do any more harm to society.
But
Kind of sad, because that happens in society still, in some cultures.
Yeah.
anyway, any further thoughts?
I do like that line. The universe is full of so many unhappy people. Why ignore something good?
Yeah, it may be the they may end up being the on again off again Ross Rachel thing for this. She's like,
Yeah.
they almost flirt with it, and then nope, and then
That must have been so hard for him, being her gal pal, when he's still in love with her. But I think it's more of a Josh Osgood type relationship at this point, where they do love each other, but not. She doesn't love him romantically. There is this deeper connection that they have that goes beyond romance or friendship, but it's not in a romantic aspect, at least not anymore. Kind of like that line from Doctor Who that I'm not going to look up the quote just now, but the one that Missy tells Clara about, try nanobrain, get to expand beyond your primal frenzy, and think a friendship older than your oldest civilization and infinitely more complex. And I think that's the kind of relationship that Ed and Kelly had at this point. I don't think there's ever going to be anything more between them, but it will kind of tease because Ed's super friend zoned. So he still totally wants her back, but
Yeah,
she's
in a
right.
moment of weakness, they might have
Yeah,
a dalliance, and then it
yeah,
might
but
come back with, "Oh no, we shouldn't have done that. That wasn't
yeah,
the right thing to
because she
do."
is right in the fact that they should not be together because of their professional relationship.
Yeah, and so if they have a dalliance, it's a moment of weakness for her, and he's always got a weak spot for her. So
Yeah,
you know, all it would take would be her having, a lapse in judgment for a
yeah,
moment, and they would have a dalliance, and then it would be like, okay, and I imagine at that point he would go, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that, but he's got such a weak spot for her. If she came after him,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know
He
that he
would.
would have the willpower to resist someone he clearly has strong feelings for. And
Yeah.
he's like,
He's still
I
in love
know
with.
this is. It's like it's the guy with diabetes who keeps grabbing the Snickers bar. It's like,
Yeah,
I know this is bad for me, but it tastes so good. You know.
I think Kiali should have recused herself from the investigation because of her personal involvement, but she still did it very well, even with her personal involvement in this situation. Even to the point of letting Leiden go free and having Lotar taken in, even though she knew that would be the end of him, which you could tell hurt her, but she was doing her job. So that just makes me like her more because she can be professional even in the face of doing something she really doesn't want to do.
Yeah, she is starting to get really likable.
Yeah, she is very well written and well acted. Definitely. Also, Bortus behaved really admirably in that situation, considering his connection to all of it, to Lotar and Clyden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though probably from his perspective, he was probably, since he knows both of them, he's like, that doesn't, I know what's going on. I have a feeling I know what's going on here, and he knew the situation better than anybody on board,
Yes.
considering he knew everything about Lokar, and he's intimately familiar with Clyden, so he knew
Hmm.
everything about the two of them, and so he's
Yeah.
just like, yeah. Um.
No friendship is complete until your friend turns to you in despair.
So, any further notes of the Orville?
I understand seeking asylum would be considered hiding, but I don't see how it would be lying. Because he stated, I'm tired, so when she suggested asylum, he said more hiding and lying. Where would the lies be in that?
Yeah, lying wouldn't be.
Because his feelings are valid and his feelings are the truth. There is no lie there. And his request for asylum would be a sincere request because it would mean the end of him to go back to Mocklin.
Yeah, he would be choosing exile over death,
Yeah,
or whatever the punishment is. I forget the exact punishment, or if they even said anything.
I think it's just like life incarceration or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's choosing exile over that.
Exactly. And an exile where he can be true to himself,
Yeah,
where he'd be a refugee basically, living in a place where he can fulfill those natural urges.
Yeah. I
And
want to see.
finally, Lokar didn't hurt you. He didn't hurt anyone. All he wanted was love. And because of your bigoted prejudice, his life is over. So as far as I'm concerned, you can go straight to hell. She ripped Clyden a new one, which is totally a valid commentary there. Because
Yeah.
Clyden was a dick. Clyden was totally in the wrong. And she was in the right for ripping him a new one. And that's all the notes I have.
Yeah. Which is it was an interesting moral dilemma that Lokar faced, because the framing Clyden or condemning his entire family to have to leave the planet.
Yeah,
that was an interesting dilemma he faced.
Yeah.
I will
that he
be
chose
right
to
back.
do that. But I guess we'll wrap up. That'll be the end of Orville for now.